like all teenagers in this world, has only known the post-pandemic reality, right? She didn't know a world where you have movies coming out on a regular basis or video games, or like everything is scavenged. She's never had these parental figures. She's kind of gone from like surrogate parent to surrogate parent until she met Joel, and that's been like a constant for her. And then the events of the first game happen, and both characters have settled down in Jackson. And the events of the first game, some of them were really traumatic. If you think about what she did with David, or how much she had to do to survive. Like the first time she killed a person was in front of Joel on that journey. So she's trying to, and we are as authors trying to honor that past, this traumatic past that she's trying to live past. But it's the world of The Last of Us, and it's filled with more trauma, and DNA is very much you playing with an ally. And I would say for a big part of this game, you're playing with an ally. Now, who that ally is and how that switches across the game, it's like we want to preserve as much as we can for when you actually get your hands on it. But expect the next iteration of how we use kind of mechanics and cinematics and your allies to tell a story in new and interesting ways.
What the hell are you doing here?
You think I'd let you do this on your own?
But strained. Some of it is just because teenagers will be teenagers, and some of it is because their history is why you haven't seen them together a lot. But I will say, right, so much of The Last of Us is about this duo and their dynamic, and how they are together and how they play together. And I will say Joel plays a major part of this game as well. Dina lived in Jackson before Ellie moved in at the end of the first game. Once Ellie moves into Jackson, we're picking up the story years later, but Dina has become Ellie's best friend. And they're part of this crew that go out on these patrols, and that's how they know each other. They hang out. Jackson has electricity. They watch movies. They live like a teenage life. In the demo, we see them smoking weed together. And not only that, these characters have been very flirty with each other. And now that Dina is single, like the demo you saw at E3, we saw this festival where these two characters kiss for the first time. And where we're coming in for the demo you played, Ellie's not sure where Dina stands. Like, did she just do it to make her ex-boyfriend jealous? Is it a playful thing? And as you're playing the demo and you're seeing how they talk to each other, you're like, no, actually both characters feel very strongly about each other. So it was important for us to show the complexity of that relationship. It's these really sweet, tender moments of levity, to show how capable Dina is. And I'll just say Dina plays a major part in the game.
I see spores in there. Masks on. Got it. Remember, I don't want to have to shit you in the face.
You get to see these girls work together, and they work well together, and they're both lethal in their own way, but they also like each other, and they're flirting, and it just allows us to create this emotional contrast. And this event happens to Ellie that just disrupts all that, and she has to dig in deep to that survivor and say, these people cannot get away with this, and I need to go out there and bring justice to this world. This is unfair. And then that obsession grows over the course of the game.
This is dumb. We should be pushing in.
We hold the perimeter until we hear otherwise. Keep an eye out in case he comes this way.
I got something.
Shit.
Infected?
Let's get in there. Okay, girl. Snip it up.
First game, and this is universal, so it's not just me, it's a lot of people on the team. Right, I was considering becoming a parent at the time. It was something that was very much top of mind. I had a kid during the production, so much of that was inspiring to this core idea of like this relationship between a parent and child. And like we would often ask ourselves on production of the first game, if you don't buy into this relationship, if you don't feel that unconditional love these characters feel for one another, we will have failed, because everything we're constructing is about that and the questions that come with that. We get into other philosophical questions in the first game about like, do the ends justify the means? Is it okay to kill one girl to save many? We never quite answer those and show our position, but the characters have very strong positions about that. That's what kind of gets interesting, is these are fleshed out, complex characters, and how they deal with those philosophical questions felt very interesting. We're now more mature and older, and there's certain things we read that might upset us about things that are going on in the world. And once we kind of explore that, it felt like there were a lot of interesting questions. And then we spent months developing this outline. It felt like, oh, this is really cool. And this is not only unique in this genre of revenge, it's this pursuit of justice and how far characters are willing to go and how it changes that character over the course, and how obsessed you are and how much you're willing to stay the course as things can become more and more difficult. How important is justice in this world? How is it important to bring in closure to the ones you've loved, and how when they've been wronged in such a way? Looked at that whole structure, we said, holy crap, we love the story, but we love it also because it's unique to games and really could only be told in a game this way.
You don't know how large that group is, how armed.
Demos you played, right? One is in Jackson, that's early on in the story. It's in a different season, it's snowing, it's gorgeous in a lot of ways. And then you're seeing Seattle, which I will say is not the only location, but it's a major location. And then there are other locations we're not revealing yet. But as far as Seattle, you're going to see a lot of different areas and facets of Seattle. There's a few major factions in the world of Last of Us. So far, we've shown you the Seraphites, this religious group that also operates out of Seattle. And now you're seeing this other group, the WLF, the Washington Liberation Front. And we've given so much effort into figuring out their backstory, their history within the city. Because the city was a quarantine zone. It used to be controlled by the military. And what's going on here? Who's this other group that Ellie has come to the city to try to find? We have all those things figured out, and you saw glimpses of the history of this group and how this group operates with these other factions that are in the area. He's write and create and prototype way more than actually gets put in the game. And then we dismiss ideas that wouldn't work now, might work for a totally different game, and we just keep honing and tightening and polishing what we need for this experience. So with the kind of tension we're after, right, we added a few new infected. If we're going to add infected, we need to justify in this world. How do these new infected came to be when we didn't see them in the first game? Likewise, we're thinking a lot about, it's 5 years later, how have these factions evolved? You've seen certain factions in The Last of Us, how they survive. What else do we have to say about the world? We don't want to repeat ourselves, but you want to feel like there's a key to how everything is constructed. So with that, I'll just say you saw a few things in this demo. There's a lot more to see in the world for The Last of Us.
You can't stop this.
Please stop!
You have no idea what you're walking into.